Coming up on this week's episode of the Zennial Odyssey podcast.
The advancement of science and medicine.
What about, I'm sorry to say this, but it's chilling, but what about the Patriot Act in terms of the Truman Show?
Speaking of movies, nobody knows.
Always bet on black,
Always bet
baby.
on black.
Yeah.
Such a line.
That's its own episode, but
Yeah.
the other thing, okay, so we do have to talk about the sex, though.
You mean the lack thereof?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be seen.
Well, they want to be a brand with a
Yep.
brand.
We're going to talk about... I was about to spoil it because I just realized I hit record.
All right, segue naturally, I'm listening.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Zennial Odyssey podcast with Bobby Rocks and Remy.
Hi.
All right, so we spent the last episode talking about Fight Club and about its relevance to as much today as it was in 1999 when it came out, and we went down rabbit holes. Guess what? It's the whole point of the show. Odysseys, adventures. We don't know exactly where they're going to end up, but that's the whole point. We kind of have a foundation and it goes. And so on this one, I figured we could stick with a theme of, so I'm going to somehow quasi tie it into like that. Hey, where like things are relevant as much as they were 30 years ago as they are today. So for example, I figured we could talk about movies that correctly predicted elements of the future.
Yeah, that's fun, man. That's fun.
And so I have a few movies in mind that do that to varying degrees. Obviously, we will talk about Demolition Man because I mean we could probably just we could go on a tangent about Demolition Man, but we're also going to talk about the Truman Show, and I figured we could talk about Darkman, but there's other movies, but we can talk about just elements to all those movies.
Yeah, and I think, obviously if we were doing TV shows, it would all be Simpsons. It would all be Simpsons and Family Guy. But what people need to understand is that it all falls under the same blanket of satire.
Yep.
Which makes the poking fun at things a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, it's remarkable to see some of these things that have come to fruition. You should start with Darkman, but give people a little... Because I feel like a lot of people aren't even going to have any idea of that.
Yeah, so we can get Darkman out of the way, and then we can talk about we can go into go fish, but then we can go into talking about the other two because I think there's much more content to talk about with the other two.
Yeah.
So Darkman is a movie that came out in 1990. It starred Liam Neeson and what's her name? She's the wife of one of the Coens. And she was in Fargo. She was the police officer in the pregnant. Yeah. McDonald or McDermott.
Norman McDermott.
Yeah. Norma McDermott. Yeah. You had it. So these were the main two characters. So anyway, Darkman is it's based off of comic books and superheroes. So
it was sort of pre-Marvel Universe Marvel, but not by Marvel.
So Sam Raimi was trying to get the rights to like Batman movies. This is post Tim Burton bringing the Michael Keaton Batmans. He's trying to get these rights and he can't get them, but the only one he could get is Darkman. And he said, no, screw it. I'll go with Darkman. And what they created was, by the way, a criminally underrated movie.
It's just Raimi has an eye. Obviously, he's doing the new Doctor Strange.
Yeah. And that's another reasson I wanted to tie it in too, is because we have that Sam Raimi connection. For people who don't know Sam Raimi, he did the Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire, Evil Dead. He did the Evil Dead movies. I mean, so right now we've seen a guy who, as a director, is very broad. He's very versatile.
Always sort of swings it back to the horror stuff, though. Just because, obviously, like Evil Dead was his crash course, and that's his baby. So you can always see remnants of those films in his new work.
Yes. So anyway, he gets the rights to Darkman. For anyone who doesn't know, I'll just give you a quick kind of rundown. Darkman is about a scientist who his girlfriend, fiance, is uncovering corruption in a city, and they go to his lab because he's a part of helping that, and they basically kill his assistant, and they torture him, and they think they kill him, but they just very, very terribly scar him. So he uses his abilities as a scientist to create skin, because he's badly burned. So he creates skin. He creates masks, essentially, of people's faces. The only thing is he hasn't figured out how to make them sustain for long periods of time. So he has to stay in the dark. They chemically break down. So he has to stay in the dark, because in the dark they last a lot longer, if not infinitely. So he pretends to be he's a vigilante. He becomes a vigilante, but he's mentally ill because of the trauma he's been in. But now let's switch over to the movie, and these are reasons why the movie is so relevant today. This is 1990. As a scientist, he was talking about creating human organs and tissue, stuff that we do now.
Yeah.
Stuff that we do now in labs. They're talking about in a science fiction way in a movie 32 years ago. And then he was creating his face and masks with 3D printing.
Mm-hmm. This was before that was
It
even
was before it was even a thought. Like, you want to talk about hitting the head on medicine and the advancement of science and medicine together.
Wait, isn't it hitting the nail on the head?
I mean, I'm just trying to think about hitting it. Like, there's things we're going to talk about here that you can make a connection to the future, but that was one where it's like literal boom. Like,
yeah, and then it's interesting too, because sci-fi used to do that a lot in the 60s and 70s. They would just throw something out there that seemed really, really not plausible at the time, but then 30 years later we're kind of experiencing it, because they're, like you said, burn victims are getting their faces fixed and skin grafted. They're getting skin grafted from animals that's like kind of like reformulated to meld with human DNA. Like,
for people who don't know, I mean, I donate plasma. I donate my plasma, and yes, I get compensated for it, which that's one benefit to me. Another benefit to me is that they actually let me know how many people are being positively impacted by the medicines and the skin grafting. They use plasma is one thing they use for skin grafting for burn victims. Cool. It's used for breathing disorders. It's part of the medications. That's something that I do find near and dear, because it's like it's actually benefiting people.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to do.
Much like this movie in a science fiction way was talking about, probably didn't see it as a realistic thing in the future, that now in petri dishes we're growing hearts.
But then sometimes I wonder that as well. I wonder if that was already known to an extent. Do you know what I mean? And maybe because let's not forget the people who make films and people in that upper echelon who have that kind of money,
bag, if you will.
Yeah, they had access to things that we didn't. So maybe because that's the other thing we can't know for sure is is it art imitating life, or is it life imitating art? That's that classic philosophical discussion. I
guess in a way too, we can look at it as maybe people were working on it, but still nobody thought it was plausible. And here we are in modern times, and it's like, oh wow. Wow, yeah. You look at that movie now and you see what they're doing. It's like, I can do that at home. What's the big fucking deal?
Right?
Yeah. It made great jokes on The Big Bang Theory. Yeah, ha ha ha. Like, woo,
no such thing as a great joke on The Big Bang Theory, my dude.
I hit the wrong button.
And we're back. It's all right. That's even funnier.
That's all right. All right. So I think this is a good time to jump off, and we'll listen to some music, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into the Truman Show and Demolition Man in either order. It doesn't matter. We'll take them on one at a time and talk about the important themes. And as always, everybody, this is Bobby Rocks. I'm here with Remy. You're listening to us on the XO.
I'm throwing up gang signs. This one says booger.
And that one says, welcome to the Odyssey.
You
Hey, I hit it right this time. Welcome back, everybody.
That's what she said.
All right. Is there any preference that you would want to go first on?
No.
All right. So then I'm going to start with Demolition Man. Arguably, another movie I think people haven't understood. There are people who
everyone
think
missed the satire element.
Yeah, there's people who take it for what it is, like a Sylvester Stallone action movie. Like, and they're like, oh, it's a letdown and it's campy.
Hold on, let me correct you. You mean a Wesley Snipes action movie?
Oh, well done. Done.
Thank you.
Was that his, like, it wasn't like his debut movie, but that was like the first movie where he was like the forefront.
Yeah, I think that was his first focus on a superstar. Maybe it might have been post Blade one.
Ooh,
I think it was pre Blade, and then he got Blade for it.
I want to say that was right around the time of Passenger 57. Speaking of movies, nobody knows it.
Always bet on black,
Always
baby.
bet on black.
Yeah.
Such a line. Oh, you just Wesley. What have you done for us lately?
He's I forget. He's doing some shit though. I just saw him in something.
So I think I'll backtrack a little bit. For obviously, we're talking about a movie that's pretty much 30 years old too. So Demolition Man is a movie that takes place in the future. I think it's like around 2032.
Yeah. And
there have been cataclysmic earthquakes that have reshaped society. Society has basically become a utopia. Quote, I'm putting the air quotes up. Yeah. A utopia and a safe place. And then Wesley Snipes' character gets so prisoners in the late 90s are getting cryogenically frozen as a punishment. And they have to spend their time cryogenically frozen, and their brains are reprogrammed while they're in there. So, per like a law, they have to be unthawed for parole hearings, even if they're not going to be paroled. And the leader of the utopian society decides to reprogram him to kill this man named Arthur Friendly, who's living in the undergrounds of society, or as I call it, the real world. And he's just trying to say, like, this is bullshit. You've created a bullshit lie. And so he thinks it's a smart idea to take this serial killer, this mass murderer, and unthaw him to do that. And doesn't really see all the other stuff that's going to come with that. And so in the future, this is part of the satire. The police don't know how to handle it. Rob Schneider's great line: "We're police officers. We don't know how. We're not capable of handling it."
That's one of his only really funny, useful roles.
It is. Yep. So then, what do? They said they got to fight fire with fire. If they bring out a killer from the 90s, they got to bring out a police officer from the 90s of cryostasis.
Guess who that is?
And that's Sylvester Stallone. And then we spend the rest of the movie. The point is to try to track it down. Is it something Phoenix? That's what Wesley Snipes' character's name is. Yeah. And then Sylvester Stallone's is John Spartan. You know, talk about a strong name right there, John Spartan. So they spend the rest of the movie doing that, but then intertwined with that is all these things that are either satirical or they're just making references. And I'm just going to throw a lot out here about it. Obviously, the one that people will remember the most is if you swear in the future in Demolition Man, you get fined. You get fined for swearing. You get a credit or whatever. And Sylvester Stallone actually swears a lot, so we can get a lot of those tickets because in the future, apparently, they don't use toilet paper; they use shells. And they're all making fun. Yeah, like another Rob Schneider great line. He doesn't know how to use the shells. So he uses those to wipe his ass. And talk about a great thing about that. Yeah. Oh, your PC society. I'm going to wipe my ass with that. Thank you. Redeeming line in that. What's another thing? Cars that drive themselves.
What about the weird way that nobody has sex anymore?
We can get to that. There's a build up. There's a build up. That's all right.
I get excited.
But yeah, cars that drive them. We have Teslas driving themselves now. We have cars that aren't Teslas that can parallel park. I mean, we have that stuff now. And that's the great 30 years. No, it didn't even take 30 years.
But it's funny. And another thing to stress is like, it seemed comical.
Yeah. Yeah, they did it in a way that's comical.
Stuff that seemed comical ended up coming true, which is the craziest thing.
Comical and sad. My next point here. Yeah. So they're listening to the radio, and the radio is basically like commercial jingles from the 1950s. And it's like, and one of the characters is like, "Oh, I hope they play the hot dog one." And it's like, well, that's pretty much what radio's like now. I mean, radio is just like a thrown away garbage type of thing it's a nothingness. Before we get into the sex one, what else? I'm not entirely a fan of Dennis Leary, but I am a fan of him in Demolition Man. I think he's
good when he plays himself.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And so Dennis Leary as Arthur Friendly is underground, is just living underground, and he's taken on the society. Like he takes on society. The people that don't want to live in that utopia, and the people that just want to have their eyes opened, and that's what he's saying. He's like, this. Listen, that world up there, that PC world where everything's kumbaya and everyone's happy and all that. That's bullshit.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fraud. It's a fraud. And what's the epitome of that is the fact that the guy who runs it had to take a violent individual out of cryostasis prison to murder the person saying the exact opposite of his message.
Yeah, which is very American now that we really like.
But before we go into sex, can we just briefly touch on the fast food wars in the movie?
Yeah, I don't remember them well enough.
Oh, so they say, because he saves the whatever the person's name, like he saves the head leader from Wesley Snipes' character, and they say, I want to congratulate you and take you out to Taco Bell. And so, like, Sylvester Stallone's like thinking, like, then I'm gonna go get some tacos. Maybe I'm gonna get a chalupa. Like, no, but then they show up to this like really formal, fancy restaurant.
I do, okay, yeah.
And then Sandra Bullock's character has to explain to him that Taco Bell won the fast food wars. So everything's like Taco Bell.
Which, I mean, depending on your intestinal fortitude, could be a great time. But even that, the proof of like acting like it was actually a war is just brilliant, Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, though, we got to understand, like it's intentionally corny with those jokes, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's corny," and it's like, no, it was very self-aware. So was The Last Action Hero.
Yeah,
that was another one where people missed
didn't get it
at all. Like, and I think that's the problem with satire. Sometimes I don't find it to be a problem. I think it's even funnier when nobody gets the joke, and I do.
I think it's because too many people think too literally.
100% now. That's why, like, even like dark jokes are taken too literal. People can't joke, it's funny because
The Last Action Hero has one of my favorite lines in a movie. Ice that guy, cone the phrase. Like, fucking ice cream cones.
Charles Dance and Schwarzenegger, come on, man. That's its own episode. But the other thing, okay, so we do have to talk about the sex, though.
You mean the lack thereof?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because, there are talks coming out right now of sex bots and virtual reality where you can experience and I think the reality is I think people would subscribe to it. Mm-hmm. I do. I think people would be like, what do you mean? I don't have to wash. Like, I don't have to be like, I don't have to clean every day. I don't have to shave. Like, yeah, it's just, I think we're a society that's, because what that movie kind of made fun of across the board was the fast drive-through, immediate satisfaction society. You got to keep in mind, when that movie came out, TikTok and Vine didn't exist. The 7-second format of entertainment didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So it was prophetic because now we're a society that's like, you know what I mean? Like, give me now. Give me it now. Yep. I want it the smallest, cheapest, easiest way I can have it,
And for all of us that do Zoom meetings and all that stuff, guess what they were doing in that?
Yeah,
they were basically doing Zoom meetings. Yeah. And and touch
the only thing
tablets.
Future did get wrong is how cool cars look.
Yeah.
They always make them cooler in the damn movies, and they still kind of look the same.
You know what the problem is? I think it all comes back to the Jetsons. The Jetsons just, like, they give this, like, ideal...
sleek of futurized flying vehicles and sexy robot maids. But yeah, no, it's interesting because satire does end up. Look at the Simpsons and how Simpsons has predicted a million things. Simpsons is satire comedy, 100%. Yep. It's satirizing the American family in America. Satire is usually really good with its predictions because generally, if it's so asinine that it shouldn't happen, it probably will.
Yeah, it probably will.
Because they always say the Simpsons predicted Trump. No, Back to the Future predicted Trump as president, part 2. Yep. There were a million places and things that predicted.
Oh, do you know what else they predicted? Kind of. They predicted Arnold Schwarzenegger being a politician.
Yeah,
in the movie, he was President Schwarzenegger. He became for people who forget, he was the governor.
He was the governor. Those movies are supposed to put those thoughts in people's heads and put them in place.
Oh, planting the seeds.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And you know what? If the movie's as good as Last Action Hero, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Sell me propaganda.
That. Yeah, I want that guy. Yeah.
Now, propaganda's awful, but it's such a huge part of our society still to this day. Well, okay, so I'm going off on a stupid didn't get coffee tangent. What was the third film that you wanted to...
Oh, The Truman Show.
Oh,
we haven't fully touched upon the sex aspect yet.
Okay, so tell them how they have sex in this, or how they don't have sex, but they have pseudo sex.
Yeah. So after going out to a lovely, elegant dinner at Taco Bell,
my kind of date.
Sandra Bullock and Sylvester Stallone, like he walks her back to her apartment, and she just so like calmly and nonchalantly asks him if he wants to have sex.
Which, first of all, before you even say anything, that is how it works now.
Yeah.
For people who aren't out there and don't know, like it's much safer just to ask the question, and get the consent, and go from there.
Yep.
So you see that, and obviously Stallone's like, "Hey, I'm not used to this."
He's like, "Hey, yeah, much. I would love it
with you."
Yeah, so she brings him in to her apartment, asks him to get like comfy. So he's showing that kind of awkwardness, like of anticipation or all that, and then she comes back with like 2 headsets.
Yeah,
and she puts it on her first, and tells him just put it on, and she's obviously enjoying what's going on or whatever. So then he puts it on, and you're just getting these like flashes of like what would look like intimacy, but to me it looks more jarring and like and you could tell
Willy
it's
Wonka's tunnel.
Yeah, yeah. You want to talk about traumatizing me as a child?
Going.
Yeah, and they don't know if it will be slowing.
Man.
And so he takes it off, and then there is a connection, and so she realizes he did, and she's like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he's like,
"What the hell is this?
Yeah, what the hell is this?"
I don't do this, guys.
Yeah, and she's like, "Physical contact, ew." And then she's like talking about how after there was AIDS, there was this, and there were all these different diseases, and
thank God they weren't right about that one.
I'm glad they weren't right about that.
COVID, but they're not STDs.
So then he asks her like how children are made, and then she says like, we donate. A woman donates an egg, and then the male donates sperm to a lab, and the lab basically creates the baby.
Which is the thing now.
Yeah, it's a thing. There, surrogacy is a growing thing,
and designer children.
Yeah,
rich families are paying.
And I'm not against. Hey, you got the money to do that stuff. All power to you. Yeah, they nailed that, but they nailed that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And doesn't he just like, this is how we have sex? And she's like, at the end, and she's like, woohoo, I enjoy the sex.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do believe, because like, believe it or not, guys, there are people right now, there are people putting on virtual reality headsets in different parts of the world and sort of pseudo-copulating with the help of machines and things like that. And I'm telling you right now, as soon as it becomes norm and sex spots are out there, I promise you relationships will stop. Because your sex bot is not going to fuck with you. It's just not going to be programmed to fuck with you. It's not
unless that's your thing.
Yeah, unless you just really want to be abused. You have the Amber Heard setting.
Yeah.
Spits in your mouth while you're sleeping and craps on the bed. But I think that the movie really was as much. It's kind of like how WALL-E too. Even WALL-E 5 years later, right? Everyone in chairs ordering stuff, and we're all using our Peapod and our
DoorDash,
Uber Eats. Yeah.
Yep. Grubhub. I mean, yeah. Do I think it's a coincidence that all of those food shares like just took off during a pandemic? No.
Oh my God.
No.
And listen, if you could stay inside, do your stuff, and be healthy, cool. I don't judge introverts or extroverts. I just think we're going to get to a point in society, and the only part that worries me is when we don't need each other anymore.
Yeah.
Like me and Bob could have done this on 2 computers. Do this
virtually. Yeah, we could do it virtually.
Like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't hit the same at all.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing about that. We are social creatures. That's what's scary about that, is there is a need to connect. It doesn't matter. Like, certain cultures, it's different. It's closer. Some are not as close, but it's there. It's even there for people on the spectrum who have autism. They still want to connect with human beings. Like, they do it differently. They want to do it differently than the norm.
But the only thing that is good about the move inside thing is we can't murder ourselves.
Yeah.
There are people who are looking now and they're like, oh, like me, do I want to go see Doctor Strange in the theater? I mean, yeah, but I don't want to spend 25, 30, 40 bucks when I can watch it smoke a bone and watch it at home in a month. And so I think that people are moving inside for a multitude of reasons. I think, the disease pushed a lot of people inside. I think some of the people who were pushed inside during the pandemic were like, oh, this is fantastic. I can do this.
Introverts, it was our dream.
Yeah, I can handle this microcosm.
Yeah. I survived playing Fallout 4 and making bread. That's how I survived for 3 months during the beginning of the pandemic.
That's what that stuff's for, yeah.
And honestly, I made so much bread that I just started
giving bread
offering it out to people.
Yeah, people love bread, bro.
Yep.
Can't beat bread.
Yeah. All right. So let's bring it right back. So now let's get into the Truman Show. So for people who may or may not, and I hope a lot more people remember
like
the
they
Truman
will.
Show.
Yeah.
Came out in the late 90s. It was Jim Carrey. It was kind of when Jim Carrey was transitioning from just being the funny guy to taking on either quasi-serious roles or more serious roles, even though it's a satire.
Real foray.
Yeah, even though it's still a satirical film, it's still his acting in it is impeccable.
Yeah, he plays it so well, like a dad from Leave It to Beaver.
Yep. So basically, his biological parents didn't want him, so essentially a network bought him and decided to make a reality show based around his life.
Without him ever being aware.
Without him ever being aware of it. They went as far as to put a camera in his eye. Everyone that he interacted with in his life was a paid actor.
Yeah. They had like things to follow to lead.
Yep.
He got ads during the day fed to him, and from his wife. That was crazy when she was like explaining the product, the coffee or whatever, and it's just like,
I know you're upset, but why don't we have a great cup of this? And it's like, wow, that's basically what vloggers do on YouTube now.
So the first prediction, hands down, is reality TV.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, reality TV and how everybody vicariously lives through other people, and yeah, you hinted on that too, right? Like that. Yeah, everyone plays a part. Why did that show continue? Because it had an audience, because people were watching it.
Real people more captivated by fake real life than our real lives.
Yeah,
it became very surreal.
Yep, and this happened. I mean, there was reality TV out before the Truman Show and during the Truman Show, but not like it is today. Not as prevalent as it is
What about,
today.
I'm sorry to say this, but it's chilling, but what about the Patriot Act in terms of the Truman Show? What about satellites watching him? And now we know for a fact that satellites can watch whoever because,
Why did I blank on that? I was going to talk about that too. Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State, talking about Big Brother and all that.
Isn't that Will Smith?
Yeah.
That's my favorite Will Smith.
That might have been Gene Hackman's second to last movie before he retired. Because he was in the Royal Tenenbaums, I think. Was that?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So, we want to talk about Big Brother like that, but then we have another angle of it here with the Truman Show, where it's that whole satire. And what do? They create this utopian kind of society. It's got the little inklings of the 1950s. There's some like just fascination with the 1950s.
Pleasantville.
Yeah. Pleasantville. Blue Velvet, to a lesser extent, the 1980s as a whole. I mean, getting back to 1950s values,
which makes it surreal that you were playing Fallout because that's 100%.
I know it's retrofit to a T.
Yeah.
So there was one character in the history of the Truman Show that got on there, and they wanted to kind of let him know that, hey, this is a lie, and they quickly, get rid of them, and they say whatever. So then he starts to, for whatever reason, something triggers it in his head.
Like free will, almost.
Yeah. Something triggers it in his head, and he starts to question everything. And they are just going out of their way to keep him steered on the right track.
It's like a gaslighting.
Yeah. And then we get to when it culminates, when he's trying to literally, on a sailboat, trying to sail away. And this is someone who has a fear of water because he went fishing and his father, quote unquote, died. And that was that was more of the narrative of the show. Yeah. How fucked up is that? By the way,
gives me chills. It makes me want to rewatch it.
Yeah. He has a fear of water. He has a real life fear of water because he.
What about the moment on the beach with the storm cloud following him?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to get to that, because essentially they're trying to drown him at the end, so he can't escape. And then finally he gets to his
edge of the map.
Yeah, he gets to the edge of the map,
like a video game,
and he thinks he's stuck, and he's dejected, and then he sees a staircase.
I love that image.
Yeah, that ending is
it's like Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
type
it's fantastic. Shit. People do talk about the religious aspect of it, especially that scene.
Yeah, he becomes free, and he goes. Yeah, he frees himself.
I know, and it's like Truman. the voice of God.
Oh, Ed Harris.
Ed Harris is awesome. Ed Harris could literally read me a catalog from something I'm not going to buy while he's taking a dump, and I'll think it's captivating.
Yeah, he's a remarkable dude.
Yeah. And so he's like, Truman,
voice of God,
you don't need to leave. And it's like, just trying to convince him. And then when he does leave, it switches. So then Truman becomes free, and Ed Harris is devastated.
Yeah.
And then the most fitting thing about that is everybody's like excited of the culmination of the show, and then the security guards at the end, as it goes to credits, are like, all right, let's see what else is on. Like,
just because it's that plastic. Because it was his
subdued
whole world, but it was just one channel and one show.
Yeah, and everyone was that subdued.
You know what fucked me up about that film, to be completely honest with you, was the idea that somebody could fake love you.
Yeah,
If you look at the Truman Show properly, it's a David Lynch horror movie.
Yeah.
You're getting gaslighted by every single person around you. Every one of them has agreed to gaslight you to one set of rules.
Yep.
You're pleasant to all of them. So they're not only like, they're breaking a nice person, but the idea that you could have a spouse.
Then they're conditioning. They've taken away every free will.
Yeah.
From a person.
And like, the waking up is so powerful. And I think it's a metaphor too, to be honest with you. I think that movie's a strong metaphor for like marriage breakups too.
Yep.
Because sometimes you don't know the person at all and you have to just walk away to a completely new world.
Yeah.
Because your world was wrapped around them. But yeah, it's a profound film, but it's sad and scary if you understand the things that did come true.
Yes.
We're in a police state now. We're 100% self-monitored with social media. So we all
watchdog society.
What am I doing right now? I'm filming my own Truman Show as Bob's watching me post shit to my TikTok.
Yeah.
And it's
so I mean, we can go everywhere
makes
with
me
it.
feel gross.
But because I won't lie, I do watch vloggers on YouTube, and hey, that's how they make their money. All power to them.
Vlogging's
but
interesting.
literally, it's like, hey, I'm gonna film my life, but before we get into what I'm gonna eat, I just got all this stuff from this company that sent me all this stuff, and if you want a special discount to it, now you get to watch me eat the food. Like that's just, I mean, if that's not a correct parallel, I don't know what is.
Yeah, we become the ad willingly.
Yep.
So
and we're in a society now where everybody wants to be seen.
They want to be a brand with a brand. Yeah.
Yep. And hey, look, we're no different from that. I mean, we're making a fucking podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, intrinsic.
On one hand, we're not different, but on the other hand, we're trying to show what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's my intention with some of the stuff that I post too. Is like, I don't do that dumb shit.
Yes.
Even when I got this stuff, which is all sponsored, I never did the ads because I was like...
That's right, everyone. I made a Wizard of Oz reference. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, but I mean, the truth is kind of the goal with this, with some of the stuff we do, is to say everything's veneer.
Yeah.
Truman was not performing, but yet he was, because we all perform. In our daily lives. But it's just crazy that we could watch.
He wasn't performing until he started to put two and two together, and then he put on the normal face so that it would get the eyes off of him. And it's like, woo! It's like, wow! Look at that!
And then I think a lot of people too. There's this thing going around right now. Okay, and I've seen it on social media where people are saying, and think about this in terms of the Truman Show. They're saying, "Am I the NPC?" or the main character in this game?
I would give them the same blank stare I'm just giving you now. I would feel their head to see if they have a temperature, and I'd walk away.
No, but I'm saying is like those people we are creating our own versions of that show.
Yeah.
Because we're all NPCs. That's the reality.
It's frightening reality.
Yeah, it is.
Talk about, and again, a movie that's 24 years old, just nailing the late 90s, just was nailing.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of
things.
Pathos. You know?
Being John Malkovich.
Oh yeah, so insanely like surreal.
Yeah. I think we should touch upon. We brought up Enemy of the State. We should just bring that up real quick. Yeah. So for everyone, it's your typical
conspiracy theory.
It's your typical late 90s action movie. It was one of the first movies Will Smith did post Independence Day, which really put him on the map more than The Fresh Prince, more than rapping as The Fresh Prince. As an actor, it put him on the map. Enemy of the State he's an attorney. He's in, I think it's Philadelphia or DC. So it's between there.
Wait, hold on. West Philadelphia, born and raised. Yeah, it was Philly.
And so this politician is trying to get another politician to essentially do like a backroom deal.
Backdoor deal.
Yeah, doing what politicians do. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're trying to do it. And the politician's not going along with it. They're at a secluded park. And so he has him murdered. And there was a
witness.
Yeah, and the witness was someone who was filming for like birds. So they had this footage, and they then take it. They find like.
By the way, this shit really happens.
Yeah.
You're
This
in
movie,
the wrong place.
This movie predated the Patriot Act by a few years, and it's scary how like much that came into. Yeah. So long story short, again, the guy who filmed it realized they were out to get him. And so he just stumbled upon a random person who happened to be Will Smith and gave him the tape. And then they kill that guy. They switch their attention to Will Smith. And I mean, they're making his life a living hell. They're putting out warrants for his arrest.
It's gaslighting.
Tying him to crimes he didn't
commit.
Group
stalking.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're using satellites to pinpoint exactly where he is. It's the first time we use cell phones to pinpoint where someone's someone was. And then there's Gene Hackman, who's like the conspiracy theorist who saw this all along, who he teams up with and is trying to help him. And long story short, I mean, they don't win in the end, and it all comes out. But yeah, literally 4 years later, as a society, we willingly allowed our government to take advantage of our vulnerabilities, where they did the Patriot Act, and we didn't read the fine print. We didn't read the fine. Yeah, we were vulnerable because of 9/11, and I have no problem with that. I get that. They took advantage of us because of that, and they tapped our phones, or they did things. My phone was tapped in 2002. My phone was tapped. I got random calls from like police who were looking to do like stuff with drugs, and they just knew that I hung out with people who did drugs. That's crazy. But like, you know, I'm just like, I'm like, who the hell is this? I only smoke with like 5 people, and you're not one of them. So
it's and I think there was that other one, what with Mel Gibson, Conspiracy Theory.
Yeah.
That was the same kind of thing but like, that's the thing too, is if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, of course you can get snuffed out. But the idea that we are now living in a self-regulated police state with GPSs and cameras, I mean, dude, Mark Zuckerberg covers his webcam on his computer with tape. What does that tell you?
That the androids have figured it out.
Yeah.
Why can't we?
Know, but I mean, if he doesn't know how to make himself not get filmed, what makes you think you guys aren't? That's why when I beat off, I stand in front of my webcam and sob, because I know there's hours of footage of me out there, and I can't wait for it to leak.
My mind just goes to we live in a society where things go viral. Like, people want to trend, and people try to make things go viral, and this ties into that too. Because what's the ultimate way to tear away from someone who has got an opposite narrative than you? If you have the means, you gaslight them by putting out all this other stuff to just cut them out.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the most. It's crazy because we're in the most informed and least informed time in history.
Yep,
it's crazy because you never had to research, fact check things you learned coming up. The 80s and 90s. I mean, the news would be honest. You didn't always have to agree with it. But then there was a change, and now, you know, via the internet and Fox News and these other outlets, you really have to wonder how slanted the information you're getting is. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The shooting yesterday, which we're not going to discuss because we do not celebrate people like that, though, it initially broke on TikTok. I didn't know if what I was looking at was someone filming a scene from a movie, because people do that too. They'll film outside a movie set without seeing the cameras and make it seem like whatever's happening is happening to them, like a chase is going by or something. So when I first saw footage of it, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is real. That's messed up. We're in a society right now where you don't even know if the shit you're looking at's real.
Well, yeah, I think there's been things that have been wrong with us for a while. Because, again, I think all of us just having this 24/7 access to...
drip feed.
Yeah, it not only does it dumb us down, it numbs us.
Yeah.
It numbs us to
things. And
things.
we can add to it. I could pick this phone up right now, pop on Snapchat and say, I just watched somebody got shot in Fall River or something. Might not be true, but there you go. That's how misinformation gets spread. That's
you'll
all
be trending.
It is.
You'll be trending for a while. Yeah.
And you know what? Someone probably did just get shot in Fall River just based on Fall River. I'll be here all week, folks. Try the veal.
Sadly, I'll be here in Fall River all week, too.
I missed the sad noise.
I can program it in here.
Yeah, we need a...
Yeah. We probably need something to uplift everybody after all the heavy.
The sound what Whammy's made on Deal or No Deal. We got a whammy button.
Yeah, I think we've covered this topic too about the media that we have covered and followed and watched when we were children and adolescents, and how frighteningly in some cases and just more humorously in others, how it nailed the future. And we've gone everywhere. We've talked about capitalism, and we've talked about the technology, the science, the medicine, and we talked about the media.
No, what I think is with a lot of these episodes, and I want to stress this at the end, is please, if you guys listen to this at some point or check it out, hit us up if you have more movies that you want us to, that have done this, that you, because a lot of what we're doing in these early first, I want to say 50 episodes, is we're throwing stuff and sticking it to the wall.
Yeah.
You know, and if you guys have some, obviously we didn't do Idiocracy because that's super basic at this point. I mean, I can send you guys a link to an article I did about it like about 10 years ago. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It was super predictive. But then if we talk about that, we're going to have to focus on talking about Trump. I'm good.
I just don't want to talk about a movie that is our reality right now.
Yeah, for real. Like the fun's out of it when you're surrounded by it.
That's a lie. I would much rather have Camacho as our
yeah, right. Way more charisma.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So anytime you guys listen to an episode, if you like it, if you like what you hear, please feel free to engage us. You'll be able to find me on Instagram, TikTok, blah, 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 all those crappy places.
Yep.
Bob's a little more hidden, but I will relay anything you tell me to him, and we will incorporate it.
But we'll definitely have it through the domain and the website.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have all the contact info so everyone can get out there and get a hold of us. Yeah. I may be hidden, but I will venture out. I'll venture out a little bit. I'll stick my head out like the groundhog.
Peekaboo.
I'll see my shadow and then I'll scurry away.
Rush back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but I think that does it for this episode today. So as always, thank you everybody for tuning in. This Odyssey has come to a close, and we will talk to you during the next Odyssey.
Keep your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds.
See ya.